On my screen, you'll see three different sections. One is subsidiary quarterly sales, the second is parent company quarterly sales, and the third is the function arguments box. Under the subsidiary quarterly sales, there's three fictitious companies, ABC Corp, XYZ Corp, and 123 Corp. The information located under each one of these fictitious company is quarterly product sales, and we need to get the total of these quarterly product sales to roll up under the parent company quarterly sales corporate roll-up. We'll be using the function arguments box to complete the index function. The reason why we're using the function arguments box instead of just using the actual formula is because some people are new to using the index function, so this will allow me to break down each one of the different inputs, and as people become more familiar and use this a little more, they'll be able to use the formula by itself. Alright, so let's begin. Again, what I've said earlier is that we are trying to roll up subsidiary quarterly sales into the parent company's quarterly sales. So the first thing we need to do is click on cell L19, which is ABC Corp. Then we need to go up here to the FX button, which stands for Insert Function and is located to the left of the formula bar. Let's click that. After clicking the Insert Function button, the Insert Function box will appear, and the Insert Function box has two distinct sections. The top section is the search for a function, and the bottom section is select a function. What we need to do is type the word index into the top section and click Go. Now under the select a function box, you'll see the word index right there, and we need to click OK. Normally, you won't see a select arguments box come up. Usually what will occur is the function arguments box will appear. However, the index function actually has two different ways you can complete the function. You have the way that's highlighted that uses an array, row number, and column number. Or you have beneath it one that uses reference, row number, column number, and area number. In this tutorial, we're going to be using the reference, row number, column number, and area number. So highlight that and click OK. After we've clicked OK, the function arguments box will now appear. Within the function arguments box is the four inputs that make up the index function. There's reference, row number, column number, and area number. Now, in case you've never used the function arguments box before, the highlighted, bolded inputs are what Excel says are critical and must be completed in order for the function to work. Not bolded are what Excel considers to be optional inputs. Now, for this tutorial, all four of these inputs are going to be critical and will have to be used. And I've done that on purpose so you can understand how to use each one in case you want to do the index function on your own later. Our first input begins with reference. And what reference does is basically says to Excel, where are we going to find our information at? So in our examples, we have three different tables that we're going to be using as our reference points. We have one under ABC Corp, one under XYZ Corp, and one under 123 Corp. Before we do all three reference points, I'm just going to pull in the one for ABC Corp so I can show you something. So the table on ABC Corp begins on cell B6 and ends under cell G11. And that's what we have right here. So I'm going to hit the drop down arrow, and you're going to see that in our functions argument box, B6 through G11 is in the reference box, and you'll see the column headers for it over here to the right. When using the function arguments box, and if you were to use multiple reference points, Excel is going to come back with a hashtag value error. And what that means is Excel believes that the information that we're trying to put there as multiple cell references is from different spreadsheets or different workbooks, which is not the case in our example because we're going to use the information on this same exact worksheet. I'm going to clear all this out, I'm going to bring in all three of our cell references. And before I start bringing those in, one thing I also need to tell you is when you have multiple reference points, you need to start with a parentheses. Once you have the parentheses, then you can bring in your references. So we've got our first one, and we're going to put F4. Let's push the F4 button to lock down our cells, and then comma. Then we have our second one. We're going to push the F4 button again, comma. And then we got our last one, and we're going to press the F4 button one last time. But instead of putting a comma, we're going to close out our parentheses. Then we're going to go down to our down arrow, and we're going to click in row number. And as you can see, the hashtag value error has come up. Again, this is not a big deal. This is expected to happen because of the fact we're using multiple cell references, and Excel believes we're pulling the information from multiple spreadsheets, but in fact we're still using the exact same spreadsheet, so not a big deal at all. Our second reference, or our second input, excuse me, is row number. How do you determine what the row number is? Well, again, we'll go back over here to ABC Corp, and we'll use it for our example. Our cell reference started on cell B6 and it went to cell G11. But being that we started on B6, product is our starting point. So everything that's on the same row as product becomes row number 1 for our reference. So if product is row 1, then A is row 2, B is row 3, C is row 4, D is row 5, and total is row 6. And since we're trying to get the information from the total line by quarter, row 6 is what we're looking for. So in our function arguments box, we need to put a 6. Then we need to go to our third input, which is our column number. The column number is exactly like the row number, except instead of using rows, you're using columns. So if we go back over here to ABC Corp, and we look at product again, because that's where our cell range began, everything that's located under product this time is column 1. Q1 becomes column 2, Q2 column 3, Q3 column 4, Q4 column 5, and the total is column 6. For our purposes, we need the information located in quarter 1 because that's the quarter we're working on in our corporate roll-up. So if product is column 1, then Q1 is column 2. So over in our function arguments box, we clear this out and just put a 2. Okay, so something I want you to see is that after we put that 2 in there from column number, Excel brought back the answer of 850. But you notice we haven't put anything in the area number spot yet. The reason why this has occurred is that the area number for Excel is an optional input. However, when you're working with multiple cell reference ranges, the area number now becomes critical in order to tell Excel exactly where to pull the correct information from. Now, area number, because our table in ABC Corp was our very first cell range that we used, by default, the area number uses that table's information. So ABC Corp's table is area number 1. XYZ Corp's table becomes area number 2, and 123 Corp's table becomes area number 3. Because that's the order that we put our cell ranges in. Now, because, again, ABC Corp was the default, that is why Excel pulled back 850. Now, if I change this area number here to a 2, Excel now changes the answer to 550 because it is referencing the quarter 1 results from XYZ Corp. If I change this to a 3, it now references the 123 Corp's Q1 quarterly result of 195. So that is why this area number is so important when you're using multiple tables. If you're using just one table, it's not necessary. So just to let Excel know exactly which table we want, we're going to put a 1 in here, and we're going to click OK. Let's come back with the number 850 in our Q1 for our ABC Corp. I'm going to pull this 850 aside because I want you to see what happens. What happens is the 850 is now in each one of the different columns. But we know that's not the right answer because we didn't do $850 in sales every single quarter. The reason why this has occurred is because in the columns number input, we have the number 2, which is saying that we need to have the second column's information, which is automatically Q1. But we need to let Excel, for our corporate roll-up purposes, see quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. So a trick to make this happen is we're going to get rid of this 2. And because up here we have a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4, this is a number. And so we're going to click on this locations number, which brings back over into our function arguments box L18. And we're going to sit there and now add a plus sign in the number 1. So basically what this does is says whatever number is in here, just add one more to it, and that's the column that we're looking for. It's that simple. And now we're going to click OK, and we're going to drag this over. And what you're going to see is 3360 now. And if we go over to subsidiary quarterly sales, 3360 is the correct answer. So we know we have done our index function correctly. But we still have to answer XYZ Corp and 123 Corp. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all this. And because we've locked down using F4 earlier, we can drag this down. But I'm only going to drag it down 1 to XYZ Corp. I'm not going to go to 123 Corp yet. And what you're going to see here is a reference error. And I'll show you why that reference error has occurred. So over in this column number, what we saw was we originally had in here L18. But because we dragged it down, it now became L19, which has created a shift in our reference point for our column number. What we need to do is turn this back into L18, and we need to press F4 to lock it down. Move my mouse out of the way here. F4 again to lock it to just row 18. And you know it's row 18 because the dollar sign is only in front of the 18 and not in front of the letter L. So again, because we have our reference point, and which is a number, and we're adding 1 to that reference point, we've created our column again. We've gotten back to 850. That will fix our reference error, which has just been fixed by changing that L19 to an L18. But we need to now have the information in the area number for the XYZ Corp. So we need to change this 1 to a 2 and click OK. So what we see here now is 550. So if we were to drag this over, now we have the correct information for XYZ Corp, which totals $2,380. And if we go back to our table, we see 2,380. Now we're going to highlight this, drag it down, and now we have the same exact information in XYZ from XYZ Corp into 123 Corp. And the reason why this is because our area number is still set up for XYZ Corp. So now we need to change this to a 3 to reference the data that's in 123 Corp's table, which is 195. So we'll click OK, and we get 195. So if we drag this over, now we have the corrected information for 123 Corp. It shows 2,000. And if we go down here and we look at the total, it's 2,000. So now we have a roll-up of all three of our subsidiaries under the parent company's corporate roll-up. So that is your index function using the function arguments box completed.